financial update. So if you remember, back on April 29th, we introduced the survey, the Vitality Survey, and we've had a pretty good response, but we still have surveys available for you to fill out. If you haven't had a chance to fill out your survey, or some in the back, please take it home and bring it back by the end of the month so we can analyze it in the month of June and find out where we are in our relationship with God, with each other, and the outside community. I didn't have a chance to talk about this project before, but the ELCA started this about a year and a half ago. And it's really gaining traction now in Florida, particularly in our county, the Suncoast Conference of Lutheran Churches. And the ELCA has found that congregations who do these three things well become much more vital and engaged in their church. And I can say that if they feel as though you're vital, then I think that, we would be considered to be ready to call a pastor. So that's doing this to find out where we are, so that through the summer we can hopefully have the Holy Spirit enter our hearts and minds and souls and try and find out where God is leading us. And then we'll do this survey again and see what's happened. But the ELCA would say that those who are vital strengthen their relationship with God, they nurture their relationship with each other, and they go out into the community and become a strong presence in the community. So that's why we're starting to do this. And back on May 11th, Pastor and myself and Pastor Jerry and Kristen Lehman attended our conference's annual meeting. And every one of the Lutheran churches in our conference is involved in this process of vitality. And it's particularly good for us because we're in transition. So when we get into the summer, we'll be doing some visioning work, and we'll also be sharing with you what you think about where we stand in those three areas so that we can have a baseline. And one thing I'll say about this is that Pastor Rob is really big on a process called contemplative prayer. And I'm going to leave some forms in the back that tell you how to get into this. And it's a form of meditation, and every time he speaks to churches in northern Florida, he brings this up. And 2 or 3 churches in our conference have really started to do this right now. And it's just a matter of you taking about 20 minutes a day and being still and being intentional and letting the power of the Holy Spirit wash over you. And if you do this every day, remarkable things begin to happen. And Pastor Rob has told us a number of amazing stories. So I encourage you to give this a try, anyway. And probably around October or November, we'll resurvey with the same survey so that we can see how we have progressed from this point in time. And if we have, gotten to a point where we consider ourselves to be at least average or above in those 3 areas, I think we'd probably be ready to form a call committee. But that still will be the role of the bishop, the pastor, and the council. So that's kind of our plan for the summer. Any questions? Rob, you're up.
Well, as you can see, preschool renovation has begun. We don't have any slides, but if afterwards you want to come up and look, the plan has not changed at all. And that is just kind of as a brief reminder, the 2-story building We're going to be basically putting 3 4-year-old classrooms at the bottom floor. The Braid building, we're going to have 3 3-year-old classrooms. And the former sanctuary, we're going to have a 2-year, 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 and on the other side where the kind of the classrooms are presently, a 4 or 5-year classroom. Interestingly enough, demolition began in both, and now obviously we also have the youth center that is being renovated also in the former choir room. Demolition has begun on the choir room and on the former sanctuary. Interestingly enough, when they took apart the stage in the sanctuary, they found a time capsule that was put there, I think, when they built the stage, probably in around about 20 years ago or so. So, interesting, and I'm not sure where it is right now, but okay. It's going... It's not... Yeah. So again, as I said, the demolition has begun. It's going to be a tight time frame to get this done before school starts, and in part that's due to city regulations and the way we have to do it. We have to do this in 2 phases. The first phase is going to be primarily the interior work and building out the interior. You'll really notice a change on the second phase, and we have to complete that first and then get a new permit for doing the roofs and the windows and things of that nature. And that's going to cause a slight delay, but then I think you'll see a major change, especially to the former sanctuary. Plans have been finalized. The youth center, I think it's all final. They've gone over it, made some last-minute changes, and we have to get, you know, consoles and plugs for gaming in there. So they've made some last-minute changes, but they're happy with their plans. All the finishes have been selected, and now it's just a matter of execution and paying for it. So, any questions?
Speaking of paying for it. Good morning, everybody. Just want to give you a quick look at how we look through April, starting with the highlights. Year-to-date net income, you're not used to seeing net income, but it really is, of $13,409 is where we are in April. For the month of April itself, we contributed about $4,700 of that. So it was, it looks really good. Now let's drill down into that just a little bit. And the way I want to do, oh, thank you, I'm sorry. If we drill down a little bit into that, I'm comparing not only to budget, but to last year. Last year, if you take a look at our weekly offering, we're not that different. You know, last year we had $140,723. This year we're at $141,354. So we're kind of holding our own income-wise. Last year looks like more income because we transferred at this point in time $6,600 from our reserves to make our budget. And that was primarily to pay our youth and family directory, or student and family directory, and half of that from just towards operating funds. So this year, if you take a look, actual year-to-date versus budget year-to-date, it must be, you know, some of the best financial people ever to get that close on a budget. I'm just teasing, but it's just good news for there. So as we look at the income, we also need to look at the expenses. When we go to the expenses, there are 2 major things that make up the biggest difference year to year that I've highlighted here. And of course, we know that is our pastoral support and in worship and music. In both cases, those are primarily salary-related numbers. If you take a look at the budget, we budgeted $175,000 to this point, but we've only spent $163,000. And again, some of that is with Mr. Bryan being out and doing contracting. There's that. Our new admin's going to cost us less than Marcia did. And there are some other items that you can take a look at here that show. Last year at this time, we had $185,000 in expenses. This year, we're at $175,000. So we're keeping, a real tight rein. I don't want to call it an austerity budget, but there wasn't a lot of extras in this budget this year. So let's look at the next slide, please. And that's, again, you see that net income for the year. At this point, we thought we were actually going to be in a negative situation because of the way primarily things like insurance fall when we need to pay it, but we're actually ahead of schedule there. And when you take a look at versus last year, we're in a much better position. Our actual year-to-date numbers that are highlighted there in terms of the two salary areas, you're looking at a difference between $90,000 and $55,000. So just in those two areas, there's $45,000. Now, why is that important for us? The number one question everybody wants to know is, are we going to be able to afford a new pastor? Dave Beck and I kind of have talked over a few of these things. And if we were to call a pastor today based upon what we know and what's in our budget, we would probably feel comfortable saying we could do $100,000 and still kind of stay where we are. But reality says we need at least $115,000. Now that sounds like a lot of money, but I want to break that down just a little bit for you. 115. Just as kind of a benchmark, the compensation package for Pastor Will was north of 150. So we're talking still about a significant decrease. Taking a look at the guidelines from the ELCA, what that 115 would look like, right off the bat, we've got to take $35,000 out for health insurance and dental. So, you're already down pretty low. We also pay the equivalent of the employer's portion of Social Security and Medicare, which is 7-something%. We offer we offer a pension at 12% per the guidelines, and you back all of those things out, and we're at $65,000 for a salary. Now, when we look at our finances, we break it out into salary and housing allowance. And that's because of the benefits in the tax law that pastors can do that. But as for our purposes, it's salary. It's treated the same way. Now, just for comparison's sake, the guidelines say, in the ELCA guidelines for salary says $65,000 is roughly a person with about 10 years experience, either pastoral or relevant experience in a secular job. An MBA starting salary, okay? The average starting salary for an MBA this year, if you were a woman, was $75,000. If you were a man, it was north of $90,000. So we're not asking something that's really out of line as we're taking a look at these numbers. And that challenges all of us to step it up. Because as you all know, this isn't going to be our only expenses. Stewardship will be talking to us a little bit later about some of the other initiatives and things that we need to do fundraising for. And we really want everyone to be aware of what the challenges are. I'd say the good news is this year hasn't gone down. We seem to have turned that corner. We've been on a decline for a number of years. We anticipated that this year would be the year that we kind of make an upturn, and we hope that that continues. And with God's help and guidance and everybody, searching their hearts as to how they can be good stewards, we're pretty sure that's accomplishable. Questions? Denise? Yeah, like right now, operations is looking at all of those projects. They're getting quotes. They're looking at what can be phased, what needs to be done first, et cetera. The good news is we don't have to do the roofs on an emergency basis. Some of the information that we've gathered so far has told us that most of the roofers are still working on hurricane-related areas, so the prices look incredibly high at the moment, north of $200,000 for a roof alone. And then we haven't even gotten the first quote yet for resurfacing. But all those things are being looked at. You'll hear from us. Anything else? Well, thank you all for being part of this. And, if there's other information you need, there's several council members here today, and hopefully you'll recognize us and ask your questions. Thank you.